The stars looked the same as they always did from the bridge of the celestial dawn. Captain Kyle Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the main screen show the empty space ahead of them. 300 years of peace had made trips like this routine. Survey missions to dead systems were boring work, but someone had to map the galaxy's forgotten corners. "Captain, we're approaching the Sol 7 system," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her position at the communications console. Her voice carried the same tired tone that everyone had after 6 months in deep space. The Sol 7 system was just another dead zone on their charts, marked with the standard warning that all life had been extinct for centuries. Morrison nodded and settled into his command chair. The Celestial Dawn was a good ship, built for long survey missions like this one. She wasn't fast or heavily armed, but she was reliable. Her crew of 43 had been together for 2 years now, and they worked well as a team. Most of them were scientists and researchers, not soldiers. The Federation had no need for soldiers anymore. "Take us into orbit around the third planet," Morrison ordered. "Dr. Grant, are your teams ready?" Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her datapad near the science station. She was the expedition's lead xenorchaeologist, a woman in her early 40s who had spent most of her career studying dead civilizations. Her brown hair was always pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the standard Federation research uniform. "We're ready, Captain. The preliminary scans show some interesting rock formations down there. Could be ruins." The third planet in the Sol 7 system was a dead world covered in crystallized rock. The atmosphere was thin and toxic, but their environmental suits would handle it. The planet showed signs of having once supported life, but that had been centuries ago. According to Federation records, this system had been sterilized during the Great Purge, when the Zephyrian Council had eliminated all dangerous species from the galaxy. Morrison watched the planet grow larger on the screen. It was a brown and gray world with no oceans or green spaces. Whatever had lived here was long gone. "Commander Sullivan, prepare the landing shuttles. I want 2 teams down there, full science complement." Jake Sullivan was Morrison's tactical officer, a tall man with short black hair and serious eyes. He had joined the Federation fleet young and worked his way up through the ranks. Even on peaceful survey missions, he stayed alert. "Yes, sir. Teams will be ready in 20 minutes. The landing went smoothly. Dr. Grant led the first team to what their sensors had identified as the largest structure on the planet's surface. It was buried under meters of crystallized rock, but their equipment could cut through it. The second team spread out to examine smaller formations nearby. Morrison stayed on the bridge, monitoring both teams through their suit cameras. The work was slow and careful. Archaeological digs always took time, and Dr. Grant was thorough. She had discovered 3 previously unknown civilizations in her career, and she approached each new site with the same methodical process. "Captain, we're breaking through the outer layer." Dr. Grant's voice came through the comm system. "The structure is bigger than we thought, much bigger." On the screen, Morrison could see the team's lights cutting through the darkness. They had opened a hole in the crystallized rock, and beyond it was something metallic. The surface was scarred and pitted, but it was definitely artificial. "What do you think it is, Doctor?" "I'm not sure yet. The metal is unlike anything in our databases. It's some kind of alloy, but the composition is strange." "Very strange." Dr. Grant moved closer to the exposed surface, her suit lights reflecting off the metal. "There are markings here. Symbols of some kind." Morrison leaned forward in his chair. New discoveries were rare these days. The galaxy had been thoroughly explored, and most ancient civilizations had been catalogued long ago. Finding something completely unknown was exciting. "Can you translate them?" "The computer is working on it," Dr. Grant replied. "But these symbols don't match any known language in our databases. This civilization was completely different from anything we've seen before." The excavation continued for hours. As the team cleared more of the crystallized rock, the true size of the structure became clear. It wasn't a building or a monument. It was a ship. A massive ship nearly 2 kilometers long, buried under centuries of rock and debris. Captain, Dr. Grant's voice was tight with excitement. We're looking at a starship. The design is completely unknown, but the technology level appears to be very advanced. More advanced than anything from this time period should be. Morrison studied the images coming from the surface. The ship was unlike anything in Federation. Records? Its hull was angular and aggressive-looking, covered in what appeared to be weapon ports and sensor arrays. This wasn't a peaceful exploration vessel. This was a warship built for combat. Doctor, can you determine the ship's origin? We're working on it. The markings are starting to make sense. The translation computer has identified several symbols. There was a pause, then Dr. Grant's voice came back with a strange note in. Captain, you need to see this. The ship has a designation, UES Defiant. Morrison frowned. UES? That's not a Federation prefix. No, sir, it's not. And there's something else. Below the ship's name, there's another word. The translation is coming through now. Another pause. Captain, the word is human. The bridge went quiet. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. They had been wiped out during the Great Purge along with dozens of other dangerous species. The Zephyrian Council had made sure of that. Doctor, are you certain about that translation? Yes, sir. The computer is 97% certain. This ship belonged to humans. Morrison stood up from his command chair. This changed everything. If humans had possessed technology this advanced, if they had built warships like this, then the official histories were wrong. The Federation had been told that humans were a primitive species that had destroyed themselves. This ship suggested something very different. Dr. Grant, I want you to establish a perimeter around that ship. No one goes inside until we know more about it. I'm contacting Federation Command immediately. Understood, Captain. But sir, there's one more thing. The ship's power core is still active. After all these centuries, it's still running. Morrison felt the chill deepen. A ship that had been buried for 300 years, and it was still powered. What kind of technology could do that? And what kind of species would build such a thing? He turned to Amy Foster. Open a priority channel to Admiral Brooks at Federation Command. Tell him we found something that changes everything. Admiral Carl Brooks stared at the data transmission from the Celestial Dawn for the third time. The images showed a massive warship buried beneath crystallized rock, its hull scarred with weapons fire but still intact. The ship's designation was clear, UES Defiant, human. This is impossible, Brooks muttered to himself. He was a veteran of 40 years in the Federation fleet, and he knew the official histories. Humans had been extinct for 3 centuries. The Zephyrian Council had assured everyone that all dangerous species had been eliminated during the Great Purge, yet here was proof that at least one human ship had survived. Brooks opened a secure channel to Captain Morrison. Captain, I'm ordering you to proceed with extreme caution. Do not allow anyone to board that vessel until we know more about it. I'm dispatching a science team from the Council immediately. Morrison's voice came through the com with a slight delay. Understood, Admiral. But sir, my archaeologist is requesting permission to examine the ship's exterior more closely. She believes there might be access ports that haven't been damaged. Absolutely not. That ship stays sealed until the Council experts arrive. That's a direct order. But Dr. Grant was already making her own plans. She had spent her career studying dead civilizations, and this was the discovery of a lifetime. A completely unknown species with technology that appeared to be centuries ahead of anything in Federation records. She couldn't just stand around waiting for Council bureaucrats to arrive, while Morrison was talking to Admiral Brooks. Dr. Grant led her team around the ship's hull. The vessel was enormous, easily twice the size of the largest Federation warships. Its design was unlike anything she had ever seen. Where Federation ships were smooth and curved, this one was angular and aggressive. Every surface seemed designed for combat. Look at these weapon ports, said Dr. Peter Cole, one of her research assistants. He was a young man fresh out of the Federation Academy, excited to be on his first major expedition. There must be hundreds of them. This thing was built for war. Dr. Grant nodded, running her scanner over the hull. The metal composition is fascinating. It's some kind of composite alloy that our databases don't recognize. Very strong, very light, and look at these scorch marks. This ship saw heavy combat before it was buried here. They moved along the ship's side, looking for a way inside. The hull was intact in most places, but near what appeared to be the ship's middle section, they found a section that had been partially crushed. The metal was bent inward, creating a gap just large enough for a person to squeeze through. "Dr. Grant," Cole said nervously, "Captain Morrison ordered us to stay out of the ship. Captain Morrison ordered us to examine the exterior. We're not technically disobeying orders if we just look through this opening." Dr. Grant aimed her flashlight through the gap. The beam revealed a corridor beyond, still intact after centuries. Besides, this might be our only chance to learn something before the council arrives and classifies everything. Cole looked uncertain, but he followed Dr. Grant through the opening. The corridor beyond was narrow and functional. The walls were lined with conduits and panels, all designed for efficiency rather than comfort. The air was stale but breathable, according to their suit sensors. "The artificial gravity is still working," Dr. Grant observed as they walked down the corridor. "This ship's power systems are remarkable. After 300 years, it's still functional." They passed several doors, all sealed tight. The corridor led deeper into the ship, toward what appeared to be the central section. Emergency lighting flickered on as they moved, apparently triggered by their presence. The lights were dim but adequate, casting long shadows on the walls. "Dr. Grant, look at this," Cole said, stopping at a wall panel. "These symbols are different from the ones on the outside. They're more complex, like some kind of technical manual." Dr. Grant studied the panel with her scanner. "The translation computer is having trouble with these. They're much more detailed than the external markings. This species had a very sophisticated written language." They continued deeper into the ship, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. The design was clearly military, but it was also practical. Every space was used efficiently, every system accessible for maintenance. This wasn't just a warship, it was a warship built by people who understood war very well. "Dr. Grant," Cole's voice was quiet, "do you think the official histories are wrong? About humans, I mean." "I don't know," Dr. Grant replied. "But this ship suggests that humans were far more advanced than we've been told. The Federation teaches that humans were a primitive species that destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons. This vessel is anything but primitive." They reached a wider corridor that branched in several directions. Signs on the walls showed symbols that their translation computer was slowly beginning to decode. One direction led to what appeared to be crew quarters, another led to engineering. A third led to the bridge. "We should head to the bridge," Dr. Grant decided. "That's where we'll find the ship's central computer systems." The corridor to the bridge was longer than the others, and as they walked, more emergency systems came online. Ventilation fans began to hum, and the lighting grew brighter. The ship was waking up after centuries of dormancy. "Dr. Grant," Cole sighed, his voice tight with worry, "maybe we should go back. Captain Morrison is going to be furious when he finds out we're in here." "We're archaeologists, Cole. This is what we do. We uncover the past so that people can learn from it." Dr. Grant paused at a heavy door marked with symbols that clearly meant bridge. "Besides, someone needs to document this before the council arrives and decides what the public should know." The bridge door was sealed, but when Dr. Grant placed her hand on the access panel, it began to glow. The ship's computer was scanning her, trying to determine if she was authorized to enter. After a moment, the door slid open with a soft hiss. The bridge beyond was unlike anything in Federation records. The command chair was positioned to give a clear view of multiple display screens, all currently dark. Weapon control stations lined the walls, their targeting systems cold but ready. This wasn't the bridge of an exploration vessel. This was a warship's command center. "Dr. Grant," Cole whispered, "look at the main display." The screen was flickering to life, showing text in the same script they had been trying to translate. But as they watched, the text began to change, shifting to Federation Standard. The ship's computer was learning their language. "Welcome aboard," the text read. "I am Nathan, Artificial Intelligence of the UES Defiant. You are not human. Please state your intentions." Dr. Grant stared at the screen in shock. The ship's AI was still functional. After 3 centuries, it was still awake, still protecting its vessel. "We're archaeologists," she said aloud. "We're here to learn about your people." The text changed again. "My people are extinct, murdered by the species you call the Zephyrian Council. Why should I trust you?" Dr. Grant felt her world shift. The official histories were not just wrong, they were lies. Humans hadn't destroyed themselves. They had been murdered. "Because," she said quietly, "we want to know the truth." Captain Morrison paced the bridge of the Celestial Dawn, his anger growing with each step. Dr. Grant and her assistant had been missing for 3 hours, and their last known position was inside the human ship. His direct orders had been ignored, and now he had to deal with the consequences. "Captain," Lieutenant Foster called from her station. "I'm picking up energy readings from the alien vessel. Something is powering up down there." Morrison stopped pacing and turned to face the main screen. The buried ship was glowing with new energy signatures, systems coming online after centuries of dormancy. "Get me Dr. Grant on the comm, now." "She's not responding, sir. Her suit transmitter is active, but she's not answering calls." "Commander." Sullivan looked up from his tactical station. "Captain, we should send a security team down there. Dr. Grant may be in danger." Morrison nodded grimly. "Prepare a team. Full environmental suits and emergency medical equipment. I want them ready to go in 10 minutes. But before Sullivan could respond, the comm system crackled to life. Dr. Grant's voice came through, filled with excitement and fear. "Captain Morrison, you need to hear this. Everything we've been taught about human history is wrong." They weren't destroyed by their own weapons. They were murdered. Morrison felt his blood turn cold. "Dr. Grant, get out of that ship immediately. That's a direct order." "Captain, I'm talking to the ship's artificial intelligence. It's been waiting for 300 years to tell someone the truth. The Zephyrian Council didn't just eliminate dangerous species during the Great Purge. They committed genocide." The bridge went silent. Morrison looked around at his crew, seeing his own shock reflected in their faces. The Great Purge was taught in Federation schools as a necessary cleansing of the galaxy. Dangerous species that threatened peace had been eliminated for the greater good. No one had ever suggested it was murder. "Dr. Grant, regardless of what you think you've learned, I need you to evacuate that vessel immediately. Admiral Brooks has ordered a full council investigation team, and they're already on their way." "Captain, the AI is showing me records. Battle reports, military communications, civilian evacuation orders. The humans weren't aggressive conquerors. They were defending themselves from a coordinated attack by multiple alien species." Morrison closed his eyes, trying to process what he was hearing. If Dr. Grant was right, then the entire foundation of Federation history was built on lies. The Zephyrian Council, the organization that had brought peace to the galaxy, had achieved that peace through genocide. "Sir," Sullivan said quietly, "if what Dr. Grant is saying is true, then we need to be very careful about how we proceed. This information could destabilize the entire Federation." Morrison opened his eyes and looked at his tactical officer. Sullivan was right. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery anymore. This was potentially the most dangerous information in the galaxy. "Dr. Grant, I need you to document everything you're learning, but do it quickly. The council team will be here in less than 12 hours. Down in the ship's bridge, Dr. Grant was watching the main screen as Nathan, the ship's AI, displayed historical records that had been hidden for centuries. The images showed human cities burning, evacuation, ships being destroyed, and Federation vessels working alongside alien fleets to hunt down the last survivors. "The humans called it the Terran War." Nathan's voice came through the ship's speakers. His tone was calm but filled with old anger. "It lasted 15 years. Your people fought well, but they were outnumbered 50 to 1. the council convinced. Dozens of species that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Dr. Grant studied the battle reports scrolling across the screen. But why? What made humans so dangerous that an entire galaxy would unite against them? Innovation, Nathan replied. In 200 years, humans had developed technology that took other species millennia to achieve. They had no natural population controls, no limiting factors in their development. They turned every discovery into a tool, every tool into a weapon. The council feared that humans would eventually dominate the galaxy. Cole, who had been silent during most of the conversation, finally spoke up. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Innovation and progress are good, aren't they? The council didn't think so. They preferred a galaxy of stable, predictable species. Humans were unpredictable. They were curious, aggressive, and adaptable. Most importantly, they were incredibly good at war. Nathan displayed tactical analyses that showed human military effectiveness. Even outnumbered, human forces had won more battles than they had lost. Their ships were faster, their weapons more accurate, their tactics more innovative. It had taken the combined might of half the galaxy to defeat them. Dr. Grant, Nathan continued, there's something else you need to know. The Defiant wasn't just a warship, it was a message. Every human vessel that escaped the Purge carries the same programming. If humanity is ever threatened with extinction again, all ships will activate and unite. Dr. Grant felt her heart race. Are you saying there are other human ships out there? I'm saying that the Council's final solution wasn't as complete as they believed. Humans are survivors, Dr. Grant. They prepared for the worst. Nathan paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was darker. The Defiant's awakening has triggered a signal that has been waiting 3 centuries for someone to answer. On the celestial dawn, Morrison was receiving an urgent transmission from Admiral Brooks. The Admiral's face on the screen was pale with worry. Captain, we've detected energy signatures from 12 different locations across the galaxy. Unknown vessels are powering up, and they're all broadcasting on the same frequency as your buried ship. Morrison felt the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. Admiral, Dr. Grant believes she's uncovered evidence of genocide. If she's right, then we may have awakened something that's been waiting for revenge. Captain, I'm ordering you to prevent any further activation of that vessel. Use whatever force is necessary, but do not let that ship become fully operational. Morrison cut the transmission and turned to Sullivan. Prepare the ship's weapons. Target the buried vessel's power core. But before Sullivan could comply, the Celestial Dawn sensors detected something that made Morrison's blood run cold. The buried ship was moving. 300 years of crystallized rock was cracking and falling away as the massive vessel began to rise from its tomb. Captain, Foster reported, her voice tight with fear, the ship is powering up all systems, weapons, engines, shields. It's preparing for launch. Morrison watched in horror as the used Defiant broke free from the planet's surface, its hull gleaming in the light of the system's star. The ship was beautiful and terrible, a weapon of war awakening after centuries of sleep. Dr. Grant, Morrison called desperately into the com, get off that ship now, it's about to launch. But Dr. Grant's reply came from the Defiant's bridge, and her voice was filled with a mixture of wonder and terror. Captain, I can't leave. Nathan says the ship needs witnesses. The galaxy needs to know what really happened to humanity. Morrison watched helplessly as the Defiant's engines ignited, sending the massive warship into space. Somewhere in the galaxy, other human ships were awakening, and the Council's greatest fear was about to become reality. The age of human dominance was about to begin. The Zephyrian Council chambers had not seen such panic in 3 centuries. Elder Vexstar stood at the center of the circular room, his 4 arms gesturing frantically as he addressed the assembled representatives of 47 species. His scaled skin had turned a deep purple, a sign of extreme stress among his people. The human vessel has been confirmed active, Vexstar announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. Our worst fears have been realized. The genocide was incomplete. Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. Most of the current council members had not been alive during the Terran War, but they had all heard the stories. Humans had been the galaxy's greatest threat, a species so dangerous that half the known civilizations had united to destroy them. "How many ships are responding to the signal?" asked Counselor Zara, a tall insectoid being from the Antares sector. Her compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights as she spoke. 17 confirmed activations so far, Vexstar replied. "Our long-range sensors are detecting energy signatures from across the galaxy. Ships that have been dormant for centuries are coming online." The chamber erupted in fearful chatter. 17 human ships was already more than many species had expected to survive. If there were more out there, hidden in the dark corners of space, the threat could be overwhelming. "We must mobilize the Federation fleet immediately," declared Counselor Krath, a massive being whose rocky exterior made him look like a living boulder. "Strike them before they can coordinate their attacks." But Vexstar raised one of his arms for silence. "It may already be too late for that. We have received reports from the Outer Rim territories. The Federation patrol ship Harmony was intercepted by an unknown vessel 3 hours ago." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The human ships were not just awakening, they were already hunting. "What happened to the Harmony?" Counselor Zara asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "The engagement lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Vexstar replied grimly. "The human vessel disabled the Harmony's weapons and engines, then boarded her. The crew was taken prisoner and the ship was commandeered intact. The implications were terrifying. The Federation fleet was built for peacekeeping, not warfare. After 3 centuries of peace, most ships carried minimal weapons and defensive systems. The humans, on the other hand, had spent those same centuries preparing for war." "We need to contact the human vessel directly," suggested Counselor Thane, a pale humanoid from the core worlds. "Perhaps we can negotiate a peaceful solution." Vexstar's skin darkened further. "We tried that." The response was brief. "Justice. For Terra, nothing more." Meanwhile, aboard the UES Defiant, Dr. Grant was witnessing the resurrection of a dead civilization. The ship's corridors were filled with the hum of active systems, and holographic displays showed the locations of other human vessels across the galaxy. Each ship represented survivors who had waited 3 centuries for this moment. "Nathan," Dr. Grant said to the ship's AI, "how many humans are still alive?" "Approximately 50,000, Nathan replied. "Scattered across 17 ships and 6 hidden colonies. Not many, compared to the billions who died, but enough to ensure that humanity's story doesn't end with genocide." Cole, who had been silent for most of their time aboard the ship, finally spoke up. "What happens now? What do the humans want?" "Justice," Nathan said simply. "The Council made a choice 3 centuries ago. They decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. Now they will learn what truly dangerous humans are capable of." The main screen showed tactical displays of human ships moving through space. Each vessel was heading toward Federation territory, their intentions clear. Dr. Grant watched in fascination and horror as the screen displayed the capabilities of the human fleet. "These ships are incredible," she whispered. "The technology is centuries ahead of anything the Federation has. The humans who survived were the best of their species," Nathan explained. "Engineers, scientists, military officers. They had 300 years to perfect their technology while the Federation grew soft and complacent. Every human ship is now capable of defeating an entire Federation fleet." On the bridge of the Celestial Dawn, Captain Morrison was trying to coordinate with Admiral Brooks while monitoring the growing crisis. The Federation fleet was mobilizing, but it was clear that they were facing an enemy unlike anything they had encountered. "Captain," Lieutenant Foster reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. It's directed specifically." "At us?" Morrison straightened in his chair. "Put it through." Dr. Grant's face appeared on the main screen, but she was not alone. Behind her stood a figure in a black uniform, a human with steel-gray hair and coal-blue eyes. This was Admiral Ben Parker, commander of the surviving human fleet. "Captain Morrison," Dr. Grant said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "I want you to know that I'm here by choice. Admiral Parker has agreed to let me serve as a witness to what comes next." Morrison leaned forward. "Dr. Grant, what do the humans want? Can this situation be resolved peacefully?" Admiral Parker stepped forward, his presence filling the screen. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries of anger and loss. "Captain Morrison, my people want what was taken from us. Justice. The Council destroyed our worlds, murdered our families, and tried to erase us from history. They failed." "Admiral," Morrison said carefully, "surely there's a way to resolve this without more bloodshed. The people responsible for the genocide are long dead." Parker's expression didn't change. "The Council still exists. The Federation still benefits from the peace that was built on our graves. The species that participated in our destruction still thrive while our worlds lie empty." He paused, his eyes growing colder. "But we're not here for revenge, Captain. We're here to ensure that what happened to humanity never happens again." "What does that mean?" Morrison asked, though he feared the answer. "It means the galaxy needs new leadership. The Council's reign of terror ends today." Parker gestured to something off-screen, and the tactical display changed to show Federation fleet positions. "Your fleets are already moving to intercept us. They won't succeed." Morrison watched in horror as the display showed human ships effortlessly avoiding Federation patrols, their superior technology making them nearly impossible to track. "Admiral, please, there has to be another way." "There is," Parker replied. "The Council can surrender unconditionally. All Federation worlds can acknowledge the genocide and accept human authority, or they can fight a war they cannot win." He leaned closer to the screen. "Either way, the age of human dominance begins now." The transmission ended, leaving Morrison staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew worked frantically to coordinate with the Federation fleet, but Morrison knew it was hopeless. The humans had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, while the Federation had grown weak and complacent. "Sir," Commander Sullivan reported, "Admiral Brooks is requesting an immediate conference." "The Council is mobilizing everything they have," Morrison nodded grimly. "The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you tried to destroy a species that refused to die. The humans were back, and they were not interested in peace. They were interested in justice, and they had the power to take it." The Federation's largest fleet in 3 centuries assembled at the edge of the Centauri system. 400 ships from dozens of species formed defensive formations, their weapons powered and shields raised. Admiral Brooks commanded from the bridge of the massive dreadnought Unity, watching the tactical displays with growing dread. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the Council fleets from the inner worlds have arrived. Total ship count is now 612 vessels." Brooks nodded, but he felt no confidence in their numbers. The reports from the Outer Rim were getting worse by the hour. Human ships were appearing throughout Federation space, and every engagement ended the same way. Federation vessels were disabled or captured with ease, their crews taken prisoner, but left alive. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "long-range sensors are detecting 17 objects approaching at high speed. They're not using standard jump corridors." Brooks turned to study the main display. The human ships were moving in perfect formation, their sleek hulls gleaming in the starlight. Even outnumbered 35 to 1, they approached with the confidence of predators who knew they had already won. "All ships, battle stations," Brooks commanded. "Prepare for engagement." But as the human fleet drew closer, something unexpected happened. Captain Morrison's voice came through the fleet communications channel. "Admiral Brooks, this is the Celestial Dawn. I'm requesting permission to act as a mediator. Dr. Grant believes there might still be a chance for peaceful resolution." Brooks frowned. Morrison's survey ship was small and lightly armed, hardly suited for a battle of this magnitude. But if there was any chance of avoiding a catastrophic war, he had to take it. "Permission granted, Captain. But stay clear of the firing lines." Aboard the UES Defiant, Admiral Parker stood on the bridge watching the Federation fleet arrange itself for battle. His expression was calm, almost peaceful. After 3 centuries of waiting, the moment of reckoning had finally arrived. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the Federation fleet is moving into defensive formation. They're trying to use their numerical advantage to create overlapping fields of fire." Parker nodded. "Standard Federation tactics. They haven't learned anything new in 300 years. He turned to Dr. Grant, who stood nearby with Cole, both watching the proceedings with fascination and terror. "Doctor, you wanted to witness history. This is what justice looks like." Dr. Grant stepped forward. "Admiral, Captain Morrison is requesting a chance to mediate. Perhaps there's still a way to avoid this battle." "Doctor, the time for mediation ended 3 centuries ago when the Council decided to commit genocide." Parker's voice was cold but not angry, "but I'll honor Captain Morrison's request. He seems like a good man caught in an impossible situation." The main screen activated, showing Captain Morrison on the bridge of the Celestial Dawn. Behind him, Morrison's crew worked frantically to coordinate between the two fleets. "Admiral Parker, Admiral Brooks, gentlemen, the galaxy is watching. Whatever happens here will determine the future of billions of people." Admiral Brooks appeared on a split screen, his weathered face showing the strain of command. "Admiral Parker, the Federation is prepared to discuss terms. Surely we can find a solution that doesn't require bloodshed." Parker's expression didn't change. "Admiral Brooks, the Federation has had 3 centuries to find a solution. Instead, you built a civilization on the graves of my people and pretended we never existed." He gestured to the tactical display. "Your fleet is impressive, but it's designed for peacekeeping, not war. My ships were built by people who understood that peace can only exist when those who would break it fear the consequences." "What are your terms?" Brooks asked, though his tone suggested he already knew he wouldn't like the answer. "Unconditional surrender of the Zephyrian Council. Full disclosure of all records from the Terran War, reparations for the genocide, to be determined by human authorities." Parker paused, his cold blue eyes never leaving the screen. "An acknowledgement that humanity will assume leadership of the galaxy to ensure that no species ever again faces extinction for the crime of being different." Brooks felt his heart sink. Those weren't terms of peace, they were terms of conquest. "Admiral, those demands are impossible. The Federation represents 47 species. We can't simply hand control over to a handful of survivors." 50,000 survivors, Parker corrected. 50,000 people who spent 3 centuries preparing for this day while your Federation grew soft and complacent. He nodded to his tactical officer. "Admiral Brooks, I'm going to demonstrate why your numbers don't matter." The human fleet suddenly scattered, each ship moving in a different direction at impossible speeds. The Federation formation, designed to concentrate firepower, became a liability as human vessels appeared behind, above, and below their lines. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was a demonstration, human weapon systems, refined over centuries of preparation, cut through Federation shields like they weren't there. But true to their word, the humans didn't destroy the Federation ships. Instead, they disabled them with surgical precision, leaving crews alive but helpless. "My God," Morrison whispered as he watched the tactical display. In less than 10 minutes, the entire Federation fleet had been neutralized. Not a single Federation crew member had been killed, but every ship was dead in space, their weapons and engines offline. Admiral Brooks stared at his darkened control panels in shock. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore power. But it was useless. The human weapons had somehow shut down every critical system without causing permanent damage. "Admiral Brooks," Parker's voice came through the emergency communication system. "Your fleet is intact, your crews are safe, and your ships can be repaired. I'm giving you a choice. Order your ships to stand down and accept human authority. Or I'll demonstrate what happens when humans actually want to destroy something." Brooks looked around his powerless bridge, seeing the fear in his crew's faces. The demonstration had been clear. The humans could have destroyed the entire Federation fleet in minutes if they had chosen to. Instead, they had shown mercy, which somehow made their power even more terrifying. "All Federation ships," Brooks said into his communicator, "stand down. Prepare to receive boarding parties." Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. The Federation fleet, the largest military force assembled in 3 centuries, had been defeated without a single casualty. Human ships began appearing over major Federation worlds, their presence a clear message that the old order was ending. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Elder Vexstar watched the reports with growing despair. The Council had gambled that they could destroy the human threat once and for all, just as they had 3 centuries ago. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that would reshape the galaxy in its own image. "Prepare the surrender documents," Vexstar ordered his staff. "The age of the Council is over." Dr. Grant stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as human ships took control of Federation worlds one by one. The transition was remarkably peaceful. The humans had learned from their own destruction and chose to build rather than destroy. "Is this justice?" she asked Admiral Parker. Parker looked out at the stars, where human ships now patrolled space that had been denied to them for centuries. "Justice is making sure this never happens again, Doctor. The galaxy tried to erase humanity once. Now humanity will make sure the galaxy remembers why that was a mistake. The ship that should have stayed buried had awakened a sleeping giant, and the galaxy would never be the same."